Hey everyone, before we dive into today's absolutely insane story, I need your help for just a second. We're on a mission to hit 1,000 subscribers, and every single one of you watching right now can make that happen. If you're not subscribed yet, please hit that button. It takes 2 seconds and it means the world to us. Alright, let's get into this, because what I'm about to tell you is going to blow your mind. Have you ever had that sinking feeling where you realize the people in charge have completely lost the plot? That moment where you look around and think, wait, is everyone seeing what I'm seeing? That's exactly what's happening right now in professional sports. And I'm not talking about a bad call or a controversial trade. I'm talking about a full-scale meltdown of basic common sense that stretches across multiple leagues and exposes just how broken the system really is. Today, we're going to expose a story that sounds too insane to be true. A head coach in the NFL who has apparently made a decision so mind-bogglingly stubborn that it defies all logic. We're talking about Kevin Stefanski of the Cleveland Browns, and the rumors swirling around him and rookie quarterback Shedeur Sanders are absolutely wild. But here's the thing, this isn't happening in a vacuum. The same chaotic energy that's destroying the Browns showed up in one of the most impossible plays in baseball history. A play so bizarre that when you see it, you'll question whether the laws of physics still apply to professional sports. This is the story of how everything is falling apart, and trust me, by the end of this, you're going to be as fired up as I am. Let's start in Cleveland, a city that knows heartbreak better than almost anywhere else in America. The Browns have been the NFL's punching bag for decades now. Bad drafts, worse coaching hires, and a revolving door of quarterbacks who all promised to be the savior but ended up being just another name on the list of failures. But this year was supposed to be different. This year they drafted Shedeur Sanders, son of the legendary Deion Sanders, a guy who didn't just play college football, he became the face of it at Colorado. Shedeur wasn't just another prospect. He came with swagger, with confidence, with that special quality you can't teach. He had the spotlight on him from day one, and everyone assumed the Browns finally had their guy. The future looked bright for the first time in forever. But something went wrong almost immediately. From the moment Shedeur arrived in Cleveland, there was tension. You could feel it. The organization didn't embrace him the way you'd expect them to embrace a potential franchise quarterback. Instead, it felt like they were treating him like a problem they had to manage rather than an asset they needed to develop. Kevin Stefanski, the head coach, seemed to have an issue with Shedeur from the start. Stefanski is old school, rigid, conservative in his play calling. He likes control, he likes predictability, and Shedeur Sanders is the complete opposite of that. Shedeur is flash, he's improvisation. He's the kind of player who thrives when the structure breaks down. Oil and water. That's what these two are. And as the season started and the Browns predictably struggled out of the gate with Dillon Gabriel at quarterback, everyone started asking the obvious question, why isn't Shedeur playing? Gabriel was struggling badly. The offense looked completely lifeless. They couldn't score, couldn't move the ball, couldn't do anything that resembled competent football. Meanwhile, Shedeur was sitting on the bench, watching it all happen. The fans were screaming for him. The media was asking why the most exciting player on the roster wasn't getting a chance. And Stefanski just kept trotting Gabriel out there week after week, watching the losses pile up, watching the season slip away. It didn't make any sense from a football perspective. When your season is already lost, that's when you're supposed to give your young guys a shot. You evaluate them, you see what you have for the future. That's coaching 101. But Stefanski refused. Then things got really weird. The local media in Cleveland, specifically guys like Aaron Goldhammer on ESPN Cleveland, started going after Shedeur for the strangest reasons. Goldhammer went on air and criticized Shedeur for wearing a backwards hat and sunglasses on the sideline. Think about that for a second. A player who wasn't even active for games, who was sitting there as an emergency backup, was being publicly attacked for how he looked on the sideline. Goldhammer said Shedeur needed to lock in on the game, as if the son of prime time doesn't know how to focus. This is a kid who grew up in the spotlight, who thrived under the brightest lights in college football, and now he's being told he's not taking things seriously because of his style. It was absurd, but more than that, it felt coordinated. It felt like someone was feeding these talking points to the media to undermine Shedeur before he ever got a real chance. This wasn't about football, this was personal. This was the old guard trying to put a young star in his place because he didn't fit their mold of what a quarterback should look like or how he should act. The Sanders brand is powerful, it's confident, it's unapologetic, and clearly that made people in Cleveland uncomfortable. The backstory makes this even more interesting. Before the draft, Shedeur reportedly declined to be drafted by the Baltimore Ravens. That decision sent shockwaves through the NFL. Former quarterback Alex Smith blasted him for it on national television, calling it insane and short-sighted. Smith said Shedeur should have been grateful to go anywhere in the 5th round, and that turning down an organization was arrogant. But here's the thing, the Sanders family doesn't operate like everyone else. They understand their value, they know that situation and fit matter more than just getting drafted by any team. Declining Baltimore wasn't arrogance, it was smart business. It was a player taking control of his career instead of letting the league dictate his path. But that move put a target on Shedeur's back. The NFL establishment doesn't like players who think for themselves. They want guys who are grateful, compliant, easy to control. Shedeur refusing to play by those rules branded him as difficult before he ever took a snap as a pro. And it seems like Kevin Stefanski bought into that narrative completely. Week after week, as the Browns kept losing, Stefanski kept refusing to play Shedeur. The stubbornness was unbelievable. Coaches in his position are usually desperate to try anything to save their jobs. They'll throw everything at the wall to see what sticks, but not Stefanski. He seemed more committed to proving a point than actually winning games. Then the truth came out. Nick Wilson, a host on the Cleveland sports radio station 92.3 The Fan, dropped an absolute bombshell on air. He said, and I'm quoting here, "I think Kevin Stefanski would rather get fired than play Shedeur at this point." Let that sink in for a second. He would rather get fired. This is no longer about what gives the team the best chance to win. This is about ego. This is about a coach who is so threatened by a player's star power, so offended by his confidence, that he's willing to lose his job just to avoid giving him a chance. Wilson added more context, saying the Browns don't want to do charity work or be anyone's farm system, which tells you everything you need to know about how they view Shedeur. They see him as an outsider, someone who comes with baggage because of his brand and his family name. This is organizational dysfunction on a spectacular level. The Cleveland Browns are actively choosing to lose because their head coach's pride won't allow him to play the most talented quarterback on the roster. This isn't strategy. This isn't a football decision. This is sabotage. Stefanski is playing a game of chicken with his own career, and he seems perfectly willing to drive the entire franchise off a cliff just to prove he's in control. The fans are the ones who suffer. The players are the ones who suffer. And Shedeur Sanders, one of the most exciting young talents in football, is wasting away on the bench because his coach decided before the season even started that he was never going to get a fair shot. You'd think this level of chaos, this complete breakdown of logic would be unique to the Browns. You'd think this kind of dysfunction would be contained to one cursed franchise. But you'd be wrong. The same energy, the same glitch in reality that allows a coach to prefer unemployment over playing his best quarterback showed up in Major League Baseball in one of the most impossible plays you'll ever see. I'm talking about the National League Championship Series. Game 1, Dodgers versus Brewers. Top of the 4th inning, bases loaded, tie game. Max Muncy steps up to the plate with a chance to blow the game wide open. Muncy connects on a pitch and crushes it. I'm talking about a moonshot, a no-doubt home run that's traveling 404 feet to center field. Everyone in the stadium knows it's gone. The runners start jogging around the bases. Muncy knows he got all of it. Milwaukee's center fielder Sal Frelick races back to the wall, leaps, and stretches his glove over the yellow line. The ball hits his glove, but the impact pops it straight up into the air. The ball then hits the very top of the padded wall and ricochets back down directly into Frelick's glove as he's standing on the warning track. He catches it. Chaos erupts. Nobody knows what just happened. Did he catch it? Did it hit the wall? Is it a home run? The Dodgers runners are completely frozen. Will Smith, who was on second base, thought Frelick made a clean catch, so he scrambled back to second to tag up. Teoscar Hernandez on third had what manager Dave Roberts later called a brain fart. He tagged up, saw the ball hit the wall, then went back to the bag anyway. Both runners were completely confused, but the Brewers players knew exactly what happened. Because the ball hit the wall before Frelick secured it, it wasn't a catch. The ball was live. It was in play, just like any other ball that bounces off the wall. Here's where it gets absolutely insane. Because the runners were so confused and hadn't advanced properly, force plays were still in effect at every base. Frelick immediately fired the ball to shortstop Joey Ortiz. Ortiz wheeled and threw a perfect strike to catcher William Contreras at home plate. Contreras, with brilliant awareness, stretched out and touched home plate with his foot just before Hernandez slid in. Force out number 1, but Contreras wasn't done. He knew Will Smith was still stranded at second base because of the confusion. Contreras calmly stood up and jogged to third base, stepped on the bag, and recorded the second out, an inning-ending double play. Let me repeat that. A 4-foot home run, a ball that would have scored 4 runs and changed the entire game, turned into an inning-ending, rally-killing, soul-crushing double play. The Dodgers players stood on the field in absolute disbelief. The crowd was silent, trying to process what they just witnessed. Muncy could only say afterward that it was definitely the worst fielder's choice double play he'd ever hit in his life. It goes down in the box score as grounded into double play, which is statistically absurd for a ball that never once touched the infield grass. The umpires reviewed it for several minutes and confirmed the call was correct. It was legal. It was real. The Elias Sports Bureau, MLB's official statistician, confirmed there hadn't been an 8-6-2 double play in the postseason for at least 35 years. So what do we have here? In Cleveland, a head coach who would rather be fired than play his most dynamic young quarterback. In baseball, a grand slam that turns into a double play because of a 1 in a billion bounce. These aren't isolated incidents. This is a pattern. This is the universe telling us that the normal rules don't apply anymore. Logic has left the building. Common sense has been thrown out the window. In Cleveland, Kevin Stefanski's ego is more powerful than his desire to win. He's actively choosing failure over what he perceives as losing control. He's looking at a generational talent and deciding that his own pride matters more than the success of the franchise. It's self-sabotage on a scale that's almost incomprehensible in professional sports, where winning is supposed to be the only thing that matters. On the baseball field, the physics of the game conspired to create the most heartbreaking outcome imaginable. A ball hit far enough to clear any fence in any stadium resulted in 2 outs and 0 runs. It was a cosmic joke, a twist of fate so improbable that it makes you question everything. If a 404-foot blast can become a double play, then what is certain anymore? What can we rely on? These events happening at the same time feel like symptoms of something bigger. The old establishment in sports, represented by rigid coaches like Stefanski and old-school analysts who criticize modern players for their style, is fighting a losing battle against a new generation of empowered athletes who refuse to just shut up and play. Players like Shedeur, who come with their own brand, their own voice, their own sense of agency. The establishment doesn't know how to handle that, so they try to squash it. Meanwhile, the games themselves seem to be breaking down. Plays that should be routine are turning into chaos. Outcomes that should be guaranteed are suddenly up for grabs. Is it the pressure of social media and 24/7 coverage? Is it the influence of sports betting adding another layer of unpredictability? Or is it just a reflection of the wider world, which feels increasingly random and chaotic? The future for the Cleveland Browns is grim as long as this civil war continues. How can Shedeur possibly succeed under a coach who is fundamentally opposed to his existence on the team? It's a toxic situation that can only end badly. Either Stefanski gets fired and the Browns waste another year, or Shedeur demands a trade and the franchise loses their most valuable asset for nothing. Either way, the team pays the price for one man's stubbornness. For the rest of the sports world, the lesson of Max Muncy's impossible double play lingers. It's a reminder that no matter how perfectly you execute, the universe can still have other plans. Chaos is always lurking, waiting for the right moment to turn triumph into tragedy. We're living in the age of the unpredictable, where a coach would rather lose his job than win with the wrong player, and a grand slam is never guaranteed until the umpires say so. Nothing is certain anymore. The center is not holding, and honestly, it's making for one wild, unsettling, and absolutely fascinating ride. Think about what this means going forward. If teams can sabotage their own success because of ego, if plays that should be impossible can happen on the biggest stages, then what are we even watching? Is this still merit-based competition, or have we entered some alternate reality where chaos reigns supreme? The Browns situation in particular should terrify every fan base because it proves that having talent isn't enough. You can draft the right guy, you can have the pieces in place, and it can all fall apart because the people in charge care more more about control than winning. That's a nightmare scenario, and it's playing out in real time in Cleveland. Shedeur Sanders came into the NFL with everything you want in a franchise quarterback. The arm talent, the leadership, the poise under pressure, the IT factor that separates good players from great ones. And he's being wasted because his coach decided before the season started that he was a threat rather than an asset. It's malpractice. It's organizational suicide. And the worst part is, everyone can see it happening except the people who have the power to fix it. The Browns ownership should be looking at this situation and asking hard questions about why their coach is more interested in proving a point than winning games. But there's been silence from the top, which suggests either they're complicit or they're completely checked out. As for that baseball play, it's gonna haunt the Dodgers forever. Imagine being Max Muncy in that moment. You do everything right. You get your pitch, you square it up perfectly, you hit it 404 feet. By every measure, you just won the game for your team. And then through some impossible combination of physics and timing, it turns into the worst possible outcome. That's not just bad luck. That's the universe actively trolling you. That's the kind of thing that makes athletes superstitious, that makes them believe in curses and jinxes, because how else do you explain something that defies all probability? The Brewers executed perfectly on defense, no question. Frelick made an incredible play, Ortiz made a perfect throw, and Contreras showed brilliant baseball IQ by recognizing the force play situation. But even they probably couldn't believe it worked. Even they had to be shocked that a 404-foot home run turned into 2 outs. Baseball is a game of inches and milliseconds, and this play proved that in the most dramatic way possible. 1 inch difference on where the ball hit Frelick's glove, 1 millisecond difference in timing, and the whole play changes. The Dodgers score 4 runs instead of 0. Momentum shifts. Maybe the entire series goes differently. But that's sports now. Nothing is guaranteed. Everything can change in an instant. The rules we thought we understood don't seem to apply anymore. Coaches make decisions that defy logic. Plays happen that defy physics. And we're all left watching, trying to make sense of it, wondering if this is the new normal or if we're just in a particularly chaotic moment that will eventually correct itself. My gut tells me this is the new normal. The world is more chaotic now than it's ever been, and sports is reflecting that. The old hierarchies are crumbling, the old certainties are disappearing, and what we're left with is unpredictability, controversy, and moments that make us question everything. Kevin Stefanski's war with Shedeur Sanders is going to be studied for years as an example of how ego can destroy a franchise. Future coaching candidates will be asked about it in interviews. What would you do if you had a high-profile player whose brand threatened your authority? And their answer will determine whether they get the job or not. Organizations are going to have to adapt to this new reality where players have power, where they have platforms, where they can push back against coaching staffs and front offices. The days of players being seen and not heard are over. The Shedeur Sanders situation is proof of that. And as for baseball, the Muncy play is going to be shown in highlight reels forever as the most improbable double play in history. It'll be used in training videos to teach players about base running awareness and why you always have to know where the ball is. It'll become legend, the kind of play that gets more unbelievable every time you watch it, because even knowing what happens, even seeing it multiple times, your brain still can't fully accept that a 404-foot home run turned into a double play. It shouldn't be possible, but it happened. So where does this leave us? We're living through a time in sports where anything can happen, where the impossible becomes reality, where coaches sabotage their own teams, where physics stops making sense. And honestly, as frustrating as it is, as maddening as it can be to watch, there's something compelling about it too. We tune in because we don't know what's going to happen next. We watch because the chaos is unpredictable and fascinating. We keep coming back because even when it breaks our hearts or makes us angry, it's never boring. The Cleveland Browns are going to keep struggling as long as Stefanski is more committed to his ego than winning. Shedeur Sanders is going to keep watching from the sideline, his talent wasted until something breaks. Either Stefanski gets fired, or Shedeur forces his way out, or the season just limps to a painful conclusion with everyone involved worse off than when they started. It's a tragedy playing out in slow motion, and there's nothing anyone can do to stop it unless the people in charge finally admit they've made a catastrophic mistake. Baseball will keep being baseball, which means more impossible plays are probably coming, more moments that make us question reality, more times when everything we think we know gets turned upside down. That's the beauty and the curse of sports. It's chaos wrapped in rules, unpredictability contained within structure, and right now, the chaos is winning. What happens next is anybody's guess. Will the Browns finally give Shedeur a chance? Will Stefanski actually get fired for his stubbornness? Will we see more impossible plays like the Muncie double play? All I know is that sports right now is giving us stories that seem too crazy to be real, and yet here we are, watching it unfold in real time. The system is broken, logic has left the building, and we're all just along for the ride. Buckle up, because if the last few weeks have taught us anything, it's that things can always get weirder. The question isn't whether more chaos is coming. The question is just how wild it's going to get before something finally gives. And honestly, I can't wait to find out. So what's your take on all this? Do you think Stefanski is actually willing to get fired rather than play Shedeur? Does that make any sense to you, or are we all missing something? And that baseball play, have you ever seen anything like that in your life? Drop your thoughts in the comments because I want to hear what you think. This is the kind of stuff that gets people fired up, and rightfully so. Sports is supposed to make sense. It's supposed to reward talent and punish stupidity. But right now, it feels like the opposite is happening, and we're all watching the inmates run the asylum. If you made it this far, thank you for sticking with me through this deep dive into the absolute chaos consuming professional sports right now. Make sure you smash that like button if this got you as fired up as it got me. Subscribe if you haven't already, because we're going to keep following these stories as they develop. And trust me, they're going to develop in ways we can't even predict right now. Hit that notification bell so you don't miss a single update, because something tells me the next chapter in both of these stories is going to be absolutely wild. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.